Now we're going to talk about chapter 9 in Jeremiah. But the thing here is it starts at um, chapter 41. And what I'm going to do here is put me in here. Then, what was curious about this text is that it's concerning Moab. Now, Moab is actually at the time of Moses. So, what we have here is text that should be moved way back in history at the promised land time. So here, all these words are going to be at that time. And it's very interesting that this text is stuck forward. Just to let you know that they didn't care about the order, this is a real good example. Nebo will be destroyed. Now, see, I can't remember because I haven't worked with this text in a while, these two things here. It seems like this was a city that's supposed to be a stronghold for Moab. So if there's something out there in Syria or Jordan that they found ancient, this would have been the place that it was been called. And I'll probably get rid of half of that easily. But this is about Moab, okay? So it was just interesting when I came across this that I was starting to delete it, and then I started reading it, and I'm kind of realizing myself that this format, because it's quite long, will end up being with Moab because like the word ascent here. They're on the mounts, but there's these valleys that come down that actually the people came in to the promised land down the Jordan River through one of these valleys that was made by water or a stream that comes down. So it's just interesting when you look at some of the words here that it is very descriptive of describing the land structure for Moab. And then it's again about the destruction of war. And none of this text, see, we'll go off into exile together. I don't know how much of this text is going to stay after I get to that text because they did kill everybody. So the thing here is they fought and they lost, in other words. So it would have been that they would have thought they had the numbers to beat the Israelis. A destroyer, my nation is coming to every city. This, because when I started realizing what it is, not for the destroyer, his nation, our Creator's nation that he just created Israel as his nation, they're coming to every city. And no one escapes. So this word exile is really in question here when you're reading the text. And here it is, it's on the plateau. Now, this word will probably get changed to mount because there were mounts that overlooked Israel. So, but Moab will be no more. With this, will be destroyed, be no more. Moabs were wiped out, so they don't exist no more. Now, there's a lot of text that's going to be taken out here. A whole lot of text. And now here, it's funny because when it's talking now about Ammon, again, this text is from when Moses' time. So I have to put Moses was being told this, what was going on. And I had to move this verse because it made no sense here. So it has to first be introduction and then concerning Ammon, which was the next army. I don't know which order they fought, but the object is that this text is referring to their army, not their sons, but the army that they gathered together. But you notice they had Gad here. Now that's tribal's land that was given to Gad, but it's pretty much you'll be taking possession of it. It's not time to pass out the land. Joshua did that later. So um, horns, not trumpets. They had horns they used. They didn't use trumpets. Now, the other guys might have used trumpets, but Israelis use ram horns to make their sound. It's awfully loud and has a distinct sound to it. And that's what I'm saying. It's a blast. It's one sound that just bellows out from it. Again, I don't know about the people and all this stuff. The names are correct, but the format is here. And it'll be a barren heap. No, why is it going to be a barren heap? And down here, it's going to be destroyed. And I believe that's what they're talking about when it comes to this relationship of the words. I believe that's what my thinking was at that time. Gird yourself, arm yourself. And notice it's a 2-verse format going through here. I just noticed that myself. Who will come against hers? In other words, it wasn't who trusts in her saying who will come against me. That wouldn't be our Creator saying these things. Our Creator is talking about those that are under her, the female goddess practice that was going on at that time. They were pagans, so they were having all kinds of sex that we should never even bring it to our head, but they believed that there was a female goddess in the text here that reflects that way. He would not have used the word me. A lot of this is going to be taken out again. Here's words from Edom. Now, yes, is this lost text from when David went into Edom? No, I did not find the story convincible enough to actually make a form out of any of this. But the object is because this was a king, but I don't think it was at the time David had went in and wiped out Edom's kingdom. Now here is a lot of text that's being removed, and I think that's what happens to the rest of the text here. Let me try to just go. Oh, I got the keyboard still shut off. And how they stick in these words in here. And there's a format, but when I'm reading these, it's kind of like, there's not enough text. But when I'm doing these, I try to make self-notes to myself because they're talking about Babylon, and it would be correct that this time of the text would be that way. But all of a sudden, all this text, I believe, is not going to be into it made it. When you read it, I guess anyways, yeah. There's reasons why I'm deleting them, so. Okay. Now we have, now it's back to where Jeremiah is being sent to the king, but it's in his 4th year of his reign. So now everybody's alive again. So, but this was just dates, hopefully, that when I put them together, it gave me a kind of an order when things were being said. When it was 20 years. Now, see, this is saying he was 20 years old when he became king. And like I said, the advisors had to overthrow and kill him, and then they designated him as king because somebody had to be king. And they were probably in control of the king at this time, and he was just not the brightest. Didn't have the power of the way it used to be. And he reigned 10 and 1 years, 11 years. Now this text is differing than the up in here that I've got 10 years. This is reigning 11 years. Okay. Just there's differences because of the formats that some numbers got lost. Well, that got lost. When you see the order over here are the kings that I've got listed, and there's a note on my kings list that of all the tallying when it comes to it, I might be off 1 year. 1 year out of all the kings. I think that's 460 years or something like that. So that is accuracy. What they were was sinners. They weren't just evil. They were sinners against the commandments, against our Creator is what evil is. But these are now just sinners at this time. Not rebel, but he would battle against Babylon. They could have said, you could have used the word rebel, but the only thing is they didn't want to be conquered, so they battled them. And that part has already taken place, because here in the 9th year of the 10th month on the 10th day, and this was moved up from here up to here, so the order is correct, year, month, date. That's when their army came up into Jerusalem and then encamped it, and they built up and surrounded it. Not lays a siege yet, but they're building a siege, so it has to be surrounding. And then it tells you then 4 months and 9 days later, the famine was so severe. So we have this 11th month going in by the dates here. Now, will I change these days like this is the 8th year going into the 9th year, then 10th year, whatever? Or maybe this text is saying it's the 10th year and I have to correct the other one. Anyways, we know what the city is, so let's say it. We know it was broken down and everyone was leaving. So, because there was a famine, since the walls were broken down, they're either going to be dire. Let's just go and be captured and get some food and eat again. I had to add this text, so I don't know why that isn't green. This is talking about, again, how he fled out the hidden door. I had to make that, put the word hidden in here, because it says between the two walls by the king's garden, and we know that it was a hidden door from previous text. And this is where the Chaldeans were also around Jerusalem. Should I put on the east side? The text reflects that. And it wasn't the army, it was the men for the Chaldeans. They were part of a large army. They weren't their own army, so they have to say men here. Pursued, chased is an easier word for 12-year-olds to understand. And here, these were the ones that were with him, was his sons and guards that were guarding the king. And they brought him up to this guy. I shortened it down. This was the commander that was around, that approached Jerusalem. And when they brought him to him, he killed his guards by the river in Damascus. Now this is where this here city that I told you I didn't like that city, but it was by the river, because I don't want. This is where I really am influencing the text and saying where it was at that he is going to go to the king for Babylon here by the river by Damascus. Now, this place here, that's too far away to say that he was killed, and then the story continues. So he has to be somewhere out of Babylon. And I just know that it's within 50 miles of conquering. I think it's what Damascus is. Maybe it's 70 miles away, something like that, the way the bird flies anyway. So I've got him on the other side of the river for Damascus, which shortens up maybe 4 miles or whatever. But this is where I'm saying that this took place. Now, yes, I'm influencing the text here, definitely. And I'm also moving this group from here, down here, up to here to fit the correct order. And then, oops, I moved here, not here. And then this was when they come to a release. He was in fretters. I think I changed that to chains. or that should be changed to change by the time I'm done with the text. Here, it's his bodyguard that he sent to go and then burn the houses in the king's house and the homes inside in Judah and in Jerusalem. Led away the rest of our people. It's kind of like re-saying the story again. Our old and sick I left here, and our poorest were left in Jerusalem. He also broke down, saying that he was responsible for breaking down the pillars. We don't have it. So yeah, I'm putting this in because we know who he is and how much in charge he is. Captains don't do the little work. The captains are commanders commanding the war, but this second in command would be doing these other things for him. I moved from below. It was down here that I brought it up here because the order of the things that were being removed needed to be placed up here. And these are the bowls that are under it. Now the bowls, I know are made of bronze, and there was each one represented a tribe, and this was for the largest altar. That was for all of them. That's what it represented, the 12 strong tribes. So, and then it's got, they broke down the pieces and took them to Babylon. And these are just some of the items that are in there. Snuffers, I removed it, but they did have fire pans that they went over to grab fire from to start fire on the altar. And these were fire stands, and they had snuffers. Now this is the first time that we actually had snuffers that were placed over them. I don't think that is actually in the text that are our Creator's hidden formats. I don't think that was even there. In this text, it is saying that for the fire stands, they would have taken they would probably just do a long pole with a cover on it to stop the oil from burning and just put that out. So used for offerings, not for the surface, but these are used for the offerings. The service, I consider that's what the priests did. They were doing the service. Beyond weight. Captain with a force. Now this is a force of people because it's just not the captain of a guard going in. These are guys going in and seeking out to make sure that they're out. So it would have been a captain would have been assigned to go inside the Jerusalem and bring out the people. Not the chief priest, but the highest priest. And then he has an assistant with him and other priests. Now, there is prophecy that I didn't go through that does talk about these guys being captured and then being killed. So the text reflects that that's what they did. They went and found them and they brought them out. So, and they went to Babylon. And okay, here's where they beat them. And the king for Babylon beat them with rods and beat them to death. It says put them to death. I had to say beat them to death with a rod. It struck them with swords and killed them. I think me putting the influence of being the word beaten with rods, I think that goes more with what happened than not, because these guys were the ones that were against the Babylon when they're explaining who they are when they're bringing them to him. These were the most higher ups in Jerusalem that are being beaten and then with a rod, being really punished. You can die from caning. So the thing here is this is pretty much what it is. So, but this is the end of the text. This stuff here doesn't really matter. So what we had in this video, which was really odd, was a story of Ammon's and Moab's from the Promised Land as they were entering and before they entered the Promised Land. So that text will be taken and put and moved it when it's supposed to be moved into the right area. So that's very interesting to actually see how old the text they were in control of, and to be able to shift around and move around. But that'll be it for Jeremiah, and go from there.